Hey y'all, and welcome back to Joey's Booked. Today we are going to be doing a little bit of a different reading vlog. Excuse me if I'm a little bit sniffly or just sounding a little bit off. My allergies are they're rough. In today's video, we are going to be filming kind of a part 2 to a book shopping vlog that I did with my friend Tabitha a few weeks ago. In that video, we went to McKay's Books here in Nashville, a huge used bookstore where you can get all kinds of stuff, and we challenged ourselves to make lists using a random number generator, and in my case I was hoping to make a TBR out of them. I don't even know what I'm reading. I don't even own that book. I know I have a couple. Oh, my used but huge huge booge. Also let me know now watch the funnies, you don't watch a newspaper. Fahrenheit 451. Idiot. You're laying on all the books. This was just a fun way to use some of the credit we got. The idea of this is to celebrate banned books, though, and there's some that I haven't really gravitated towards or anything, so I thought it'd just be kind of a fun way to make a TBR. I am going to give myself some liberties because I have been in a huge reading slump / not really loving most of what I pick up lately, and I am desperate to find something to read that I'm going to enjoy because it's just been going more and more downhill for the most part. I have a preliminary TBR, and I will attempt to read every book on the TBR I made from that random number generator. However, both me and Tabitha had a couple books that we already own that technically fit that banned book theme. If I am not liking a book to the point that I really need to DNF it, I'm not going to push myself through, and I am going to allow myself to maybe pick up one of those other books if it's something I'm wanting to read in that moment. Really, all of the books that I've drawn are not things I would regularly pick up, and I've been doing that so much as I've been trying to do more reading challenges and things like that on my own. I really want to read things I want to read. So we're going to kind of play this a little bit by ear, give ourselves a little bit of freedom. Now, with all of that said, this is what our current preliminary TBR looks like. We've got 4 books from that generator, and it's a very interesting mix. The first 2 are going to be more regular reads that are going to take me a little bit of time if I get into them. Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut and In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. The kids at my school have been reading this one lately, so it's kind of ironic that it came up. 2 other reads that were a little bit more interesting, and I'm kind of thankful for because it's going to make them quick. The first of those is going to be a children's book. I don't read that at all, but we did pull Little House in the Big Woods by Lauren Ingalls Wilder, which is like the first book in the Little House on the Prairie children's series. I'll read it. We're going to read it. It should hopefully be a quick read that I can read pretty quickly. And then I also drew a graphic novel, which is the Mouse series. So I grabbed up issue 1 by Art Spiegelman. And I don't know a whole lot about these. I know they're pretty popular. I think it's like a mouse during the Nazi regime. I don't really keep up with this. I don't really read a lot of like graphic novels or anything. Every now and then I might pick up maybe a manga or something, but even then, not something I would normally gravitate towards. So we're going to give it a shot, see how it is. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel like this one just based off the artwork alone. Inside, it's giving me very comic strip in the newspaper. Whenever you'd read like the funnies in that, kind of gives me a little bit of nostalgia from growing up doing that with my grandparents. But yeah, I don't know. This is going to be a little bit more of an interesting one. Tabitha had a few books too, so maybe I'll pick up something she had. I know she had The Art of Racing in the Rain, which was technically on my list, and this is by Garth Stein. I don't even know what this is about, not that I pretend. I know it's been a book that's been around for a while, and I believe I also have a few more laying around. I know I have Beloved by Toni Morrison on my shelves. I've got a couple of kind of like literature classics or things like that that may fall into that category. I'm not sure. That is the general idea. We're probably going to start with Slaughterhouse-Five. I don't know a whole lot about this, but I do know this one was like popular even when I was in high school and was a big topic for discussion. I believe it was on the AP list and things like that. And even looking at the back of this edition of it, it doesn't tell me much. It just says that it's an American classic and one of the world's greatest anti-war books. Centering on the infamous firebombing of Dresden, Billy Pilgrim's Odyssey through time reflects the mythic journey of our own fractured lives as we search for meaning in what we fear most. So, it sounds very anti-war. It does say on the back that it uses Kurt Vonnegut's black humor and satiric voice. So, I'm assuming it's a satire of some kind. I'm going to have to educate myself on what it means by black humor, because this is a white author, and I'm starting to think maybe that's not what this means. Maybe that phrase means something else, so I will do a little research on it. This should be a little bit of a quicker of my 2 full-length books that I need to read, and I'm hoping to enjoy this one. It's the one that I was most interested in, even though it's not what I would normally pick up. It looks pretty quick, so we'll see how quick it's reading before I either come back in once I finish it or at a halfway point or something. I will check back in with you here soon. It's been a couple of days since I last updated. I was originally going to update at the halfway point, and I didn't because I wasn't feeling great. But I have finally finished Slaughterhouse 5 by Kurt Vonnegut, so the first book of this vlog is down. Things I liked about this book. I liked how quick of a read this was, especially for something that's like on like the classic kind of radar. I didn't expect this to be such a quick read. Like, I thought it was going to be quick in comparison to like In Cold Blood that I still have to read. But like the audiobook itself is going to be 5-ish hours long. Like, this flies. I did also kind of like that this was a lot weirder than I expected it to be. I don't think I fully understood what this was about. Like, I knew this was like an anti-war kind of book, and that was about it. This is weird. And when I say weird, I say that I liked it because it was weird. I liked that it took a weird turn. In like the first like 30-40 pages, we're following the story about Billy. We get like an introduction to who he is. And then Billy was a soldier in the war in World War II, and then he was taken by Germans, and it continues on with his war story from there. But the whole thing is like a satire on it. Almost like semi-autobiographical. It does use a lot of black humor, which I now know I was really naive on, and I think it's just because a lot of the population and stuff that I work with, I've never heard the phrase black humor. Apparently black humor is just dark humor. And when I was going into this, I was concerned because I thought this was like a white guy, 60s, late 60s or even earlier. I was like, oh no, why is this white guy going to be doing like racial humor? And I was thinking black humor in the terms of things like nowadays more modern, maybe things like Tyler Perry. That was what I had in my head for one reason or another. No, it just meant dark humor. Normally I love dark humor. Normally I like weird also. But here's things that I've learned that I am starting to not like at all. I don't think I like satire, and I don't think I like semi-autobiographical stories that are set in fiction. Because anytime I have read something with one of those two things, I have not fully enjoyed it. I don't know. I know satire is not always meant to be funny, but when it is, and when it's supposed to be humorous like this, it didn't click with me. I just thought it was... I don't know. I didn't even think it was humorous. And then just, I don't know, like, if you're gonna write a biography, I think I'm getting to the point of, if I'm gonna read your biography, I want, like, your actual life, or I want a memoir, or essays, or something. And when this took the weird too far because of the satire. There's one point in it, when it starts, and it carries throughout the whole thing, where Billy is having some kind of, like, traumatic crisis, whatever. And he's talking about Tralfamadore, this planet that apparently he's been to, and now his life is completely different, and he knows the future, and like can travel through time, and cool. I was like, alright, this is gonna get weird. I can get behind that. And then it just kept getting weirder, and then it kept time jumping back and forth, and then it took it too far for me. Really, the majority of the time I was reading this book, when I realized the direction it was going pretty early on, I went from being like, okay, I can get behind this. This is a pretty quick read, to it took me at least 3 days to read a 5-hour audiobook. I didn't ever want to pick it up. I wanted to do anything but read this book. I would have DNF'd it probably if, one, still not convinced I'm even going to like more than maybe 30 pages of Cold Blood, and I know that is not the mindset that I need to go to and do it, but those are the only 2 long books that were like in my draws. 2, it was such a short book. I didn't see a point in DNFing it if I could read it that quick. However, I probably should have listened to my gut, because this is now my lowest rated book of the year, and I think I'm going to give it like a 1.5. Not what I wanted it to be once I started. And I think it was great going in blind because I didn't have a preconceived notion, but I just didn't like it. It didn't work for me. The satire didn't hit, the weirdness didn't hit right. I'm really disappointed, and I feel like this is going to be one of those things where it's like a classic type thing that a lot of people talk about and stuff, which I did see more mixed reviews on this. But like, where it's some people just really love the book, and something like Great Gatsby last year, and I just absolutely hated it and ended up hate reading it. So whatever, that book's gone. Tabitha, since you went book shopping with me and want to collect all the banned books, I'm sure you'll be receiving this one as soon as my monthly wrap-up's over. I really don't want to read another war type thing, because I like war in like fantasy, but not in biographical stuff. But I do think I'm going to pick one of the shorter reads. I am going to either pick up Little House in the Big Woods and just knock out this children's book, because I'm going to fly through it. I'm more likely probably going to just go ahead and knock out Maus, especially while I'm in that mindset. I'm hoping to at least enjoy this more. They're both quick reads. I might try to knock them out, and then we'll go to In Cold Blood from there. I will see you guys here soon, hopefully. Well, for you. So it is update time, and yet again, it's been a couple of days just because I've been super busy with work and stuff. I have multiple updates this time, and our first update is going to be that I finally picked up and read Maus, which this was the graphic novel that I rolled on our number generator. Sadly, I did not love this. I think I'm going to land on a 2.5 star. So throughout Maus, we are following Art Spiegelman, who is the author, and it's like another fictionalized biography. Art is talking with his father, who he's got a troubled relationship with, about his father's time in Nazi Germany as a Jewish man, and is really asking about his father and his deceased mother's story, and just surviving in Auschwitz and just Germany in general, and everything kind of leading up in World War II. I thought that part of it, like, it was reasonably well done. It was neat to kind of see some firsthand accounts. So, like, I never want to dock anyone on things like that, and it is his father's story. But what I didn't like was, one, how dense this is for a graphic novel. I don't read a lot of graphic novels, but hopefully you can see this. Every panel is so extremely dense. Everything is like that. There's so much wording on every panel. There's so much tell me instead of show me, even in the artwork. He's talking to his father and getting the father's stories, and yeah, he does draw out the father's stories, but he also draws so many panels of just him talking with his dad over and over, and it's so repetitive throughout it, and it kind of put me to sleep. I like the autobiographical nature or whatever in the fact of what this was about, but I didn't like the fictionalization of it again. There was, some very clear symbolism where all Jewish people were drawn as mice, and anyone that was affiliated with Nazi Germany was drawn as a cat. And then, there's some other people here in between that were neither or, that were either pigs, or there was some stuff with dogs, stuff like that. So, there was some clear symbolism. It was easy to tell what was going on, which really shows how people were being profiled and treated, and just all the leading up into all the negative stuff that was the Holocaust. So, like, I'm not docking anything for, like, it being that story. It was the denseness, and it was just the actually show me these things the whole time, and don't waste my time just telling me, oh, this happened, before you get into stuff. It really lost me. Also, the art, not necessarily the art style, but it was like the font did not work for me, and I found it difficult to read at times. For a 120 something page graphic novel, there is zero reason that should have taken me 3 days to read. I respect the story for what it was, but it did not work for me the way that I wanted it to. So 2.5 stars is where that's gonna land. I also, though, went ahead and picked up the big scary book of this vlog, In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. And I was right. It's a DNF. 44 pages in. Probably barely over 10%, probably like 12. I'll have to look when I update my Goodreads. But, like, I barely got into this. I knew I wasn't going to like this the moment I drew it. And honestly, had I not been planning on giving this to Tabitha for her banned bookshelf, I probably wouldn't have even bought it with the credit, because it was kind of a waste of credit. I did try to listen to the audio, and the writing style, as far as being on audio, was not too bad for me. Looking at it physically, it was so dense, and I just didn't care in the first place. Which I guess I should tell you what this is even about. This is set in 1959. It is technically nonfiction. And it's following a small town murder that really went unsolved for a long time. And then it follows the investigation and things like that. I didn't get to any of that because it was just, let me tell you about this person in the town. Let me tell you about this person in the town. Let's just keep telling you about the people in the town. And it was just so drug out. I didn't care to begin with. I didn't go in with very high expectations. I didn't go in not expecting to DNF it. I knew it was going to happen from the beginning, so I didn't help myself. Really, other than just, I knew I'd give it to Tabitha, is the only other reason I really was going to try to push through was because there are some kids at my school who are currently reading it, because it's not banned here in Tennessee, or at least in my school system. And this is stuff that some of, like, my upper level students have been studying, so I like to try to sometimes pick up the books they're studying and talk about it with them and get in some really good discussions. And even in talking to some of my kids about it, like, they were just telling me, oh, this is so dry. Like, some of them were even like, I like to read, but I don't like this, and it's dense and whatever. But you gotta make it past part 1. Okay, cool. I was gonna try to keep reading past up to part 1, and I was already super bored. And then I got talking to some more of them, and they were like, oh no, still, it takes forever for things. Now you gotta make it past, it's part 3 you gotta pick it up, is when it picks up. And then I was like, wait, how long does it actually take this to pick up? And apparently it's so much of this just, let's tell you about these people, the entire thing. And there's some thematic stuff that I didn't care about that was supposed to come up. I don't know. Like, I know this is me taking advice from high schoolers on reading. Even then, like, I wasn't enjoying it to begin with. The audio did make it more manageable if that is something that you are interested in, but I just couldn't do it, and I had a feeling. So out of my random number generator, that leaves one book left, which is a children's book, and that's Little House in the Big Woods from the Little House on the Prairie series. This is Lauren Ingalls Wilder, and it is same thing. The old hit TV show was based off these books. I actually don't know that much about it. I just know it's like people in, like, when is this set? The late 1870s in, oh, I thought this was in Kansas. This is in Wisconsin. Anyways, they're living out on the prairie. I think it's just kind of like a little slice of life book. I don't even know if I'll rate this and count it when I'm done, because it's a children's book. But I rolled it. I'm going to make an attempt to read it. I'm going to try not to DNF anything. Then we will see if there is maybe anything else that wasn't on the number generator that I may just have laying around. I've got one from Tabitha. I've got a couple on my shelves. We'll see. Every book I've read for a vlog or something is really bad, so I'm really hoping, one, that this flies, And if I do pick up something else, it's something I actually really want to read. Hopefully I can read through this quickly, and I will come back when there's any kind of update. Alright, time for a quick update, and I finished Little House in the Big Woods. How did this random number generator get me to draw almost purely fictionalized autobiographies or biographies of some kind? Because yet again, that is what we are getting with The Little House. I knew that Lauren Ingalls Wilder was like the author of Little House on the Prairie. I didn't realize like that was just like one random book in this children's series, apparently, or something. It's like book 3. Read it, finished. It was a pretty quick read. I found a really quick audiobook to kind of listen to. That, and when I say an audiobook, I mean some random person reading it on YouTube, and then I could just speed it up. So that helped a lot. So it made a quick read. I mean, it's a kid's book. I'm not going to rate this being a kid's book. It is going to just be left unrated. So it will count as a book read, but that's about it. As far as for a kid's book, I mean, it hasn't aged well, but also this is set in like, what, the 1860s, 1850s, whatever it said on the back. Something like that. Yeah, 1870s. Close enough. I mean, there's obviously things that haven't aged well. It was over 100 years ago when this is set, so like, times have changed a lot. It's very old school. For the time, I'm sure it was fine. My big thing with it is this is just a purely character-based book. Even for like kids. Like nowadays, with the way children are, I cannot imagine them wanting to or getting invested in this necessarily. Even for just like a little elementary chapter book. I don't know who rated this as middle grade on Storygraph, and this is not middle grade at all. This is definitely reads much younger for the most part. Like, it's like Junie B. Jones kind of level in my eyes. I will say, though, some of the content in here, like nowadays, there was a chapter about how to load a rifle. There was a chapter about skinning deer for venison and eating bears. Which, I mean, I know that was a thing. Bear me, whatever. I'm the last one to judge on that. There was the kid with the yellow jackets. And let's be honest, this is a kid's book. If you're worried about spoilers, I'm sorry. We're talking about it. But can we talk about the kid who kept doing, like, the crying wolf thing? And then stepped on a bed of yellow jackets and got attacked by like hundreds of yellow jackets. It just swelled up. What was that doing? Half the book was like, let's make cheese. And then it was, let's make honey. Or let's go get honey. Or let's get the maple and then make candy out of it. And then the other half of then there was this random part of the book where it was like, let's watch this kid get like viciously attacked by yellow jackets. What was that about? This is the last book since I DNF'd In Cold Blood that was out of that random number generator. I think I am going to attempt to pick up one more book that was not necessarily on my generator. I have The Art of Racing in the Rain that I borrowed from Tabitha, but like, I'm not interested in it. And here's the thing, I was just looking on Storygraph, and for this whole year, my average rating is like 2.79 stars or something for the year so far. And that's got to get fixed. So I'm going to look for a banned book that I already own and is like already on my shelves. I know that I for sure have George Orwell's 1984 and Animal Farm. And I know I have Beloved by Toni Morrison. I may try a chapter of those and see how I'm feeling. And then I also have Lord of the Flies by William Golding. And that one, I think that's a banned book. It's got to be a banned book. It's like borderline horror. It's got to be banned somewhere in like Florida or something. I do have that. And that one I've had like keep putting off on audio for like 6 months now from the library. And I could just keep pushing it back. That could be a good idea. We'll look at it tomorrow. I'll do a little research when I'm not super sleepy and struggling to stay awake. Okay, I've got to make this a quick update because I am about to head to work. We don't have kids in the building today, so I've got a little bit of extra time to get out and I get to dress a little more comfortable. But I did finally decide on the last book, and I have read the entire last book for this vlog. And I did finally land on Lord of the Flies. This is one that I've wanted to read for quite a while, and then my audiobook, I just had to wait to come in a day or so. But I accidentally read this all in like one entire sitting. I did not expect that, and I think I'm gonna land on a 4 stars for it. So we finally have a winner out of a vlog this year. If you don't know what Lord of the Flies is, this is a classic written around the 50s by William Golding, right? Yeah, William Golding. And it basically follows a bunch of kids that get stranded on this island, and they are kind of forced to survive on their own because there are no adults around, and it kind of explores all of the savagery and just different aspects of the human condition that happen, especially when it's children that are put into this position. And it's all young boys. There was a really interesting introduction in the audiobook I had because it didn't fully match this version as far as like extra stuff, because this is the casebook edition and it has a bunch of extra essays in it that I didn't get to yet. At least I might look back at them at some point. Golding even talked in it about how when he wrote the story, like he talked about like how like with the condition and stuff, people would always ask him like, well, why were there never any women or any girls or anything like that? And I really enjoyed the comment of, he was like, why would I talk badly about the superior sex? And I just thought that was so funny coming from someone writing in the 50s. He was like, I was a young boy, I wasn't a young girl. Why would I talk about that point of view? So just that amount of awareness that we talk about nowadays and seeing it in an older work, I don't know, is just something about that stood out to me. It was a neat little interview. My only real qualm with it is that I wanted it to get even more unhinged than it did. And don't get me wrong, there was plenty that happened. I don't always jive with an older writing style, but this one I thought was pretty easily accessible and it worked pretty well for me overall. And then I ended up reading it all in like one sitting. I listened to a lot of it on audio while I was cooking, and then I looked down and the book was over halfway through. So I was like, oh, I might as well finish that. It was a really good time. I enjoyed it and I would recommend it. In this video, I think there were 5 books we covered. So we just talked about Lord of the Flies, which was 4 stars. And I'm going to look over while I talk about this because they're over there in a stack somewhere. And then we had Slaughterhouse-Five, which was 1.5 star. We had In Cold Blood, which was a DNF. And then we read the first volume of Maus. Maus was 2.5 stars, and Little House in the Big Woods, which was from like the Little House on the Prairie series, which I did not rate. So at least we finally found a win for this video. I'm not sure where I'm quite going next on my next vlog. I'm going to be really busy over the next couple of weeks, but hopefully I'll have something interesting coming out here soon. If you've made it to this point in the video, please make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you again for just even watching this far and continuing to support the channel. If you have read any of these books, let me know down below. Or if you have a favorite banned book that you think everyone needs to read at some point. Also let me know down below, because I'm definitely interested in checking out more. I just got to find the right ones. Thank you so much as always, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.